Hi everybody, this is Ellie. Thanks so much for joining me today for part 2 of my Finding My Style series. Part 1 focused on finding my functional style, or how I decide on a planner system, and this video, part 2, will focus on finding my decorative style. Thanks again to my friend Lisa for suggesting this topic. It has been a lot of fun to think through and try to articulate my process. Adding decorative elements to your pages is obviously totally optional, and what appeals to each one of us is completely subjective. So I'm just going to talk through some of the things that I love, but more importantly, I'm going to try and talk about how I have honed in on those things and figured out what works for me and what doesn't. You also do not need a ton of supplies. You're going to see me sharing some of the goodies I've picked up over the years, but if you're still honing in on your style, I definitely would not suggest buying a little bit of everything, unless that brings you joy, of course. And I will talk a little bit more about this towards the end of the video. It also bears mentioning that I am not an expert. I have no background in this. I'm not an artist. I don't know anything about color theory. This is just one journaler and planner to another, talking about my own trial and error process and how that's helped me. Since this video is about finding my decorative style, it would probably help to know what I'm referring to when I say that. For me, for the purposes of this video, when I talk about decorative elements, I'm talking about things like washi tape, stickers, collage elements, whether that's torn paper or some people put in dried flowers, wax seals. If you're someone who likes to add watercolor to your pages, or you like to sketch with pencil, you like to use markers, maybe you like to do brush lettering, you could enjoy stamping. When it comes to decorative style, you might also know that you love bold text, or you might love something very minimal. You might like high contrast pages or low contrast pages. There's a lot of different elements, and those are basically what I'm referring to because that's what I have experience with in my pages. So really, when I'm talking about decorative elements, I'm talking about pulling in anything that adds an aesthetic appeal to you on your pages. It might be from that list I just mentioned. It might be something totally different that I haven't even thought of. This video is going to follow the same format as part 1. So I've come up with some questions that I ask myself to hone in on my style, and I'll give you those at the outset, and then I will go into them in a little bit more detail and show you some examples from my own planner and journal pages. I will also start this video with the same 2 caveats that I started part 1 with. The first is that inspiration is helpful, comparison is not. If you're watching this video, you have probably seen so many gorgeous planner, journal, stationery accounts out there, and they're inspiring. And also sometimes they can be intimidating. So my best advice is to take the parts that inspire you and try to move past that compulsion to compare. I get that feeling too all the time. I think it's natural, but it's not helpful. Our pages aren't meant to look like anybody else's. They're meant to reflect our style and what's important to us and what's going on in our lives at that moment. I think keeping that in mind can really help us enjoy our pages for what they are without worrying about what they're not. The second caveat is that styles evolve and pages turn. If you're honing in on finding your decorative style, you're going to be doing a lot of trial and error, and there will be things that you don't like. I'm going to be showing you pages in here that are not my favorite. Sometimes you need to try things that don't work out to know what does. I also think it's natural for our styles to evolve and change as seasons of our life change, as we change, as our needs change. So just because you love something now doesn't necessarily mean that you'll love it in the future, and that's totally fine. I think that finding your style, whether it's functional or decorative, is going to be an ongoing process, and I hope that you let yourself enjoy it. Let's get into the questions themselves. Question 1, what systems will I be working with? 2, do I want my decorative elements to be standouts or accents? 3, how do I want to feel when I flip through my pages? 4, what are some of my current favorites and how do they make me feel? 5, am I looking for consistency or do I like to change things up? And 6, What is realistic for me? Question 1 asks you to think about what systems you'll be working with. When you think about adding decorative elements to pages, it's helpful to know exactly which systems those will be in. They might be current systems you already are working in, it might be an existing journal or planner, or it might be a brand new setup. Whatever the case may be, I would suggest thinking about the primary function of that system for you. So for me, I know that I like adding decorative elements to 2 systems: my Hobonichi Cousin Avec, which is my memory keeper and journal, and my A5 bullet journal, which is my planner. So I would suggest that you keep your own systems in mind as we move through the next 5 questions. Question 2 asks, do I want my decorative elements to be standouts or accents? This is where it is so helpful to know the purpose or function of the systems themselves. So when I say, do you want your decorative elements to be standouts, I mean, do you want them to be focal points on the page? Do you want them to be bigger or to be eye-catching and to be as much a part of the page as the other elements? For me, it would be writing. Or would you like any decoration that you add to accent what is already on the page? So something that feels organic to the purpose of the page, but doesn't take away from it. I happen to have one of each. In my Cousin, I love the decorative elements to stand out. So you can see here, I have the nice big sticker that tells us what year it is. I've done some stamping. I planned on putting a picture here, but never ended up doing it. I've got my washi tape, some hand lettering. I've emphasized my goals here with these stickers. This is another example. Instead of making a simple list, I've gone ahead and used my stencil, colored pencils. I like how that pops off the page. This draws me in. I love these decorative elements because it makes the page more inviting to me instead of seeing a wall of text. And of course, again, that's a personal preference. But here, hopefully you can see how the kind of decoration that I've added blends in with the writing. I want these pages to be full of memories and mementos. I don't mind that my eye flits to all of these different elements. I actually really like that in this system. I want it to be interesting to me, and I want to have fun with the process, not just the product. So I love laying down washi, choosing stickers, practicing my hand lettering. It's part of my journaling and memory keeping process. In contrast, we have my A5 bullet journal. The purpose of this is to basically be my brain. It's where I keep everything that I need or am thinking about or want to get done. So it's a lot of lists in here, both in my daily rapid logging and in my collections. I need this to be pretty minimal and consistent because it's just how my brain works. It's much easier for me to follow and to actually use if I keep it on the simpler side. That being said, I still do like to add some decoration. So for me in here, that's color with the Tombow or highlighter of the month that I choose, and it's also small icon stickers. When I add stickers in here though, they're small, they're organic, they're meant to blend in and accent what is already here. So I can look at this from the Coffee Monsters Co. right away to find any video notes. I look at this from Planner Monkey Co. and I know that this was the day I built a shelf. I'll occasionally add little swatches of washi too, but for the most part, my preference in my bullet journal is to add small icon stickers just to help emphasize certain things that happened that day, and because it's fun. I love adding stickers to my pages, and this is a way to do it without taking away any of the function for me. My favorite icon stickers are from Planner Monkey Co. I love that they're mostly black and white and minimal. I do also have a code for her shop if you would like, so I will leave it in the description box below. So thinking about whether you would like your decorative elements to be standouts or accents can be a great place to get started. Question 3 asks, how do I want to feel when I flip through my pages? I'm not sure how much this matters to everybody, but I really love flipping through my pages, whether it's while I'm still in a journal or months or years down the road. And something that has helped me in honing in on my style is being able to describe to myself how I would ideally like to feel right now while I'm flipping through my pages. I say right now because I know that years down the road, I could flip through these and think, oh, what was I thinking? But I'm sure I'd still smile and laugh. It has definitely happened before. But right now, I know that I want these to be something that I enjoy looking through. I want this to feel cozy and on the softer side and clean. I'm going to use the word clean here because minimal doesn't fit. I love the minimal style, but I want to try too many things to think that it applies to me. But I also know that if I use too many elements, too many colors, then it can feel cluttered and overwhelming to my eye. So when I say clean, I basically just mean something that's not overwhelming to my eye. And I also really want my pages to feel like me. I have been inspired by so many different people, and in some cases, I have tried to mimic or copy their style without taking into account how that blends with what I like. And then when I flip through those pages, they don't feel like me in the end. Let me show you a couple of examples to try and illustrate what I mean. This was at the beginning of the year, so we're in January here, and these pages are too busy for my preference. I think it's because I used too many different elements, too many different colors. I think I have, 5 washi tapes alone, at least 3 different pen colors, some hand lettering. It's just busy. I used the word cluttered before, and that's what this feels like to me. And looking at it objectively, it's fine. It's a fine page. I do like seeing what I tried. I love that I cut these calendar squares out from my grandma's calendar and have her writing in here. So I'm not resentful that this page is in here or that I tried it, but I look at it and I can think, this is too busy. This is not appealing to me. It doesn't feel like me. And I'm glad that I tried it so that I know. In contrast, this is another page that does have a lot of similar elements, but I love this spread. This feels like me. I think the difference here is that I have used softer and more neutral colors. They're more monochromatic. Also, there's a lot of white space. I have learned that for me, I think part of what keeps my pages feeling clean is having a good amount of white space. I also really like having my writing lined up. On this page, I was starting it in a bunch of different spots and it's not my favorite. Whereas here, you can see all my bullets are lined up. Here, I've written 1 letter per square. It's, again, pretty monochromatic. I still have washi, stickers, doodles, hand lettering. I've included my video thumbnail. But to me, this feels much more like my style than this one. Here is another example. I was trying some collage, and this is fun. I do actually like this page, but it doesn't feel like me. It feels like I was trying to incorporate someone else's style, which I was, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. This is a great way to find out if something works for you or if it doesn't or just needs to be tweaked a little bit. What I like to try and do now is pull out the elements of other people's style that has inspired me and just try to incorporate it with what I know already works for me. So for example, lining up my writing and leaving some white space. So this is a busier page. It's also a lot bolder with so many different colors than I'm used to. I would contrast it with this spread, which I really like. This also has colors for me that are bolder, but they are deeper and more saturated, which is my preference. I also feel like it's more consistent. I'm using the same color families. I have all of these gorgeous green washi stickers. I've anchored them with the green washi tape, and my fountain pen ink and Sailor Shikiori brush pen worked well together. So even though this for me feels like a bolder spread, it feels more consistent to my style than this one does. I hope seeing those pages, especially in contrast to each other, helped clarify a little bit about what I mean when I say that different pages, different styles can make you feel different things. And that leads us nicely into question 4, which asks, what are some of my current favorites and how do they make me feel? So here, if we're making a list, I think it's best to work from broad to specific. So what are some of my favorite colors? Who are some of my favorite people that I follow, whether they're planner or journal accounts, artists, photographers, makers, booktubers, anyone really that inspires you. What are some of my favorite items or elements? It could be florals, you could love simple line drawings, you could love stamping, you could love animals, mushrooms, anything like that, anything that you know you just really enjoy. And I would invite you to pull out any specific supplies that you have that you are immediately drawn to, even if you don't necessarily use them as often as you would like. Pull those out, gather them together, and then we can start to go through things and see how they make you feel. I've gone through and pulled out some of my favorite washi tapes. When I look at these make me feel cozy, they make me feel relaxed. They're soft colors, they're neutral, they have small patterns, and 4 of them have transparent backgrounds, which I know now is my preference because I do love that white space. So being able to pull them out and think through how they make you feel, I think can be really helpful in honing in on your style and what you'd like to actually use. When I say things that you'll actually use, let me show you some of my other washi tapes. I'm only going to show washi tapes that I love, that is why I have them, but that I don't use as often. I'm also drawn to these washi tapes, but these are much more colorful and bold. So I look at these and think, I haven't used these very often. I'm wondering why, and then I ask myself, how do these make me feel? And for me, bright colors make me feel high energy, and that in turn, on a page, can be overwhelming to me. Again, this is totally personal. Someone else might see bright colors, think high energy, think fun and inviting. That's why there are so many different styles, because it appeals to all of us. That is why when I use bright colors, I tend to balance it with a much softer neutral. Or sometimes, if it's really bright, a more graphic neutral like a black and white, but still a neutral. These here, another 5 gorgeous washi tapes that I don't find myself using as often as I'd like. When I look at them, they feel dark to me. And it's not that the colors necessarily are dark, this one is a pink, but they're more saturated. To me, that feels heavy. It feels like it's pulling down my pages when I add something so dark and opaque. It doesn't mean I never use these, it means I'm more intentional about choosing other elements that make it feel lighter and more balanced, since heavy is the feeling that I get from these. I hope seeing these washi tape comparisons help illustrate my point, which was that different colors, patterns, themes can elicit different emotions in you, which could translate to your page and how you feel about it. So I think it's a really fun exercise to go through your goodies and see how they make you feel. I'm going to share some of my other favorites that give me that same cozy, clean vibe I'd like in my pages. These are some of those minimal icon stickers that I've talked about. I love their simplicity and the neutral color scheme. I love washi flake stickers. These are from Note and Wish. Again, they're soft colors. I love that washi stickers have a somewhat transparent background so they don't feel heavy on the page. I love the floral soft elements. When I'm thinking of brush pens, it'll be no surprise that I prefer neutrals. I also prefer softer, lighter neutrals. So these are some Tombos that I love. These are also neutral Tombos that I find beautiful but don't use as often because, again, it gives me that really heavy feeling on my page. These are some other brush pens and highlighters that I have, and these colors are just a little bit too bright and they feel like more of a cute or kawaii style, which isn't something that I tend to do on a large scale. Don't get me wrong, I love character stickers and adding them to emphasize things, but overall, these are a little too bright and cute for me personally. I love my Sailor Shikiori brush pens. They're more colorful, but they are more saturated, and I definitely prefer a more jewel-toned color scheme, so these are gorgeous. Got a whole sticker book full of those character stickers that I mentioned, so I love using these to represent my mood or an activity or anything like that. These can be great accents. I use the smaller ones sometimes in my bullet journal, and I will also use these in the Hobonichi Cousin Weeklies. Going through my stationery goodies in preparation for this video really helped me see that I am honing in on my style, and I love seeing all of these together. When I see them all together, I can also narrow down more specific descriptors. So I know that I like warm neutrals, I know that I like soft colors, I know that I like small patterns and simpler stickers. I like low contrast monochromatic pages and natural elements like florals and leaves. I definitely love grids and smaller, more classic designs. I should have said this earlier, but if you don't have an extensive collection like I do, which I would not advise diving into if you're still finding your style, there are other ways to pull out what you like. I would suggest just looking at photos online. You can make mood boards on Pinterest or on a document and print it out of colors, of themes, of stickers, of elements that you like, and you can look at it that way before you make any purchases. And your current favorites will look totally different than mine, I'm sure. Some people will probably have bold colors, some people will have really cohesive styles, and some people totally eclectic. Which brings us right into question 5, and that asks, am I looking for consistency or do I like to change things up? Based on this, you can probably tell what my choice would be. I like consistency. I like having a style that feels cohesive to me. And most of that is because if I have too many decisions or options, it feels overwhelming to me and it's just so much harder for me to even start. So once I know what I like, I just tend to stick with it for a good amount of time. I might add in things, try new things, but the core will stay the same. So for me, I would describe consistent as having a more curated color palette and types of things you like to include on the pages, whether it's layering, stickers, watercolor, whatever. And eclectic, I would consider, is using a variety of items and styles whenever the mood strikes. They are both great options, and the reason I suggest asking yourself this is because I feel like acknowledging your preference is giving yourself permission to actually use that style. I feel like there's strangely pressure both ways, to keep things new and current, and also to keep to a minimal and consistent style. I don't know. I know it's mostly pressure that we put on ourselves, but there's nothing wrong with liking either style. You could be doing the same thing constantly, and if you're enjoying it, then keep doing it. For me, if you've seen my bullet journal setup videos, the months have been basically the same since May, and it's not the most exciting, but it's working for me and I'm having fun with it, and that's totally fine. I follow planner friends who have pages that look totally different from one another. They use a variety of different sticker kits in their Hobonichi cousin, and it's beautiful. It's fun. I love it. I mentioned this in part 1, but I look at this like admiring someone else's clothing style too. I can admire what someone is wearing, I can love it, and I can also realize that it's not for me. It doesn't mean that I love it or appreciate it any less. It's just not the right fit for me, but I am certainly happy that it's out there and that I get to see it. So same thing, whether you want to be consistent, whether you want to be eclectic, just give yourself permission to enjoy it and to not feel like you should decorate or plan or journal a different way. And remember that styles evolve. I just showed you my cohesive, neutral favorites at the moment. And now let me give you a peek into my favorite journal of all time. This is my A6 Hobonichi Techo from 2019. And I love this journal. I also would not call it consistent or cohesive. It just has a bunch of different elements I was playing around with and trying. And honestly, guys, flipping through this has me seriously considering an A6 again for 2022. Still haven't placed my Hobonichi order. But look at this. These are my very first tip-ins inspired by Emmy Lou Arts. I know because I wrote it down. She's the first person who I ever saw tip something in. I had never even realized that was an option. This was my first Instagram post. Look at that, back in February 2019. Paddington, so cute. Some quotes, some doodles, pictures. Go here, I was practicing some stamping, washi tape, stickers, much brighter colors than I lean towards now. I've got some watercoloring coming up somewhere. Here we go. These are the more neutral colors, but then we get into brighter colors here that I don't tend towards at the moment. So things change and it's so fun to play around. So give yourself permission to try new things, to change it up if something is not working or needs a refresh, and enjoy that process. And the last question, question 6, asks, what is realistic for me? So how much time would I like to spend in my systems? When do I see it fitting into my day specifically? Does a large page size intimidate me or inspire me? If you're trying to choose a new system, that might help. And again, this will change. I've been doing this type of journaling and memory keeping since 2019, and I just learned a couple of months ago, August 2021, that I like to journal and memory keep in just a couple of big sittings throughout the month. The reason for that, I've realized, is because I like to include things like washi tape, stickers, sometimes watercolor. I like to use my brush lettering pens, and pulling everything out on a daily basis and then having to put it all away was just not happening. It was overwhelming. I found it annoying, and I just simply wouldn't do it. So being able to sit down on a weekend in the summer in front of a baseball game, which is a good chunk of time, just let me go through and decorate in stages. And it turned out pretty well. This month is actually a pretty good example of my style. I haven't gone through yet and done all of the writing I'm going to do, and I will not be filling up all the pages. Blank pages and white space are part of my style, apparently. But you can see a lot of the washi tapes, the softer colors, the somewhat monochromatic feel. And look at this. This is part of the Stationery Stockpile Challenge collab with Dakshina that we do every month. I'll link our playlist up above. But I have so many stickers that I realize now are not my style. And that is one of the reasons the Stationery Stockpile Challenge collab was born. So we have a place to use those. So there's a theme every month. This theme was food and drink. And look at all of these adorable kawaii stickers. They were way too big, most of them, to use in my regular journaling and planning, plus not really my style, but I still love them. They're still adorable, and now I get to see this in here, and it is so cute. And then look, it's followed by a sketch of a homemade hamburger, which is much more my current style. So definitely check that out if you have stuff that you're not sure how to use up. But here I did do some watercoloring this month, and again, I think I did... There was an ice cream too. I think I did 4 pages with watercolor, and I did them all at once. That way I only had to pull out the supplies at one time. So just figuring out what's realistic for you is going to hopefully help you actually get into your pages. I hope those questions have given you a place to start when it comes to honing in on your own style and figuring out what you love. I do have a couple of suggestions before you go. The first is a reminder that you can try a style without buying all of the things. This is definitely a do as I say and not as I do or did situation. But if you already have goodies, I would definitely suggest shopping your own stash, pulling out those things that you love, maybe starting with a very minimal curated collection. You can always add to that. You can check out Shop Freebies. It's usually the Facebook groups that have free printables, but that could be a great option. You could print them, resize them, cut them out, glue them in, see if the style suits you. Maybe if you're figuring out what size stickers, do you like things that are larger or smaller? I think magazines can be a great place to start, especially if you're interested in collage. In 2019, I think, yeah, just after I found the community, I asked for a subscription for my birthday, and I got that for a year, and I still have some of those magazines, which have a lot of great text and images. Another option is Happy Mail swaps. That is always a really fun thing to do with friends and a great way to try new to you items. And I heard Simone say something a few months ago, I will link her channel below, and it really stuck with me. She was saying, when you're tempted to hoard things that you love, remember that styles evolve and change. Give yourself permission to use the things that you love in the moment that you love them, because that is likely when you'll get the most enjoyment out of them. Otherwise, you might unearth it in a stack months or years down the road, and it just will be meh. You just won't have that same sense of joy. Or, I mean, maybe it gives you joy being saved in a sticker book, and that is totally fine too. You do you. But if you feel held back by the fact that you just love it so much and don't want to use it, I would say maybe give it a try. This is when you love it. Use it when you love it. Have fun with it. I'd also say if you have no idea where to start, I would start on the simpler side personally, adding a couple of different elements and building from there. You can always add more. Or if you do the opposite and go full page, that's fun too. Remember, whatever you do, you can always flip the page. Don't fear the blank pages. Don't worry about making mistakes. You will. I hope you love them or laugh at them. And give yourself permission to start. Sometimes a really helpful way to get started is to just make a little swatch page of some of those favorites that you might have pulled out. So any color swatches, you might put down some sticker samples, some little washi swatches. Make yourself a page, see how it feels, and go from there. If you have any tips or suggestions or questions that you ask yourself, please feel free to share them in the comments. I think that would be helpful for all of us. I don't currently have any plans for any more videos in this series, but if you do have any requests or suggestions, you are more than welcome to let me know. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this lengthy video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.